EnRoute 5 features a distortion tool for a toolpath, and there's a couple areas where you might be able to use this kind of a function. For an example here, we're just going to select a rectangle here, and I'm going to come here and go to the island fill toolpath, and here I have a list of tools, and I'm going to go down to the 1/4 inch end mill, and I'm going to select this tool 3 times. So we'll go here and say 1/4 inch end mill 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to go with a depth of 0.25 inches here. And what this is going to do is give me a fine fill and a clean. And when I hit OK here, we'll see that the purple area is my fill tool, the green area is my clean tool, and the fine tool actually is going to the same area as the clean tool, so it wasn't necessary here. Now what I can do is go to the Toolpath menu and go to Distort Toolpaths. And this is going to give me some parameters similar to some of the parametric settings in textures or the rapid texture. One of them is wavelength, and the shorter this value is, the more choppy the toolpath distortion will be. The longer it is, the more gradual it will be. The jitter is a parameter that defines, and if we click the eye here, it'll give us a little bit of information here. It tells us that the jitter determines the amount of roughness or localized distortion on the selected toolpaths. So these are just some different values you can play around with. And finally, I have some horizontal amplitude and vertical amplitude, which will allow my toolpath to distort in either the X, Y, or Z axis based upon what these values are. So if I don't want to distort it in the Z, but I just want to create a little bit of a random movement to my toolpath, I can come in here and check a horizontal amplitude of 0.1. And what I'll see is that it actually distorts my toolpath. If I go to the side view, I'll see it didn't change any in the Z axis, so these distortions were only in the X and Y. If I hit F9, I'll see that I still cover the whole area with the toolpath, and the clean pass will give me a sharp edge. So the clean pass is going to keep my perimeter from distorting, and this might be a way I could get rid of some tooling marks that are just appearing because of the rotation of the bit or some other factors. By introducing a little bit of variation here, we can actually help to get rid of some of that effect. So this is one example of when you might use this type of a function. Another one is if you were going to come in here and apply a relief to a shape and create a toolpath for a 3D surface. So here I'll move this into my plate, just a little below the surface. And now I'll come and let's say I'm going to apply a toolpath here, a ball nose toolpath. So we'll say a 1.5 inch deep toolpath here. We're going to apply the overcut, and we'll go with a fill percentage of 90. So we're going to apply a toolpath to this shape here. Now if I was to simulate this, I would notice that I'm going to get a smooth surface here because the toolpath is going to follow our surface and do a nice job of recreating it. So we can see it's a nice smooth rendering. But if I was to come here and I wanted to introduce some noise to this toolpath, I can now go back here, go to the toolpath menu and say, I want to distort this toolpath, and I might even be able to decrease the amount of offset here a little bit. Let's just go down to 80% because I'm going to introduce this random variation here. I can reduce my toolpath a little bit, and we'll go to the toolpath menu, distort, and we'll allow it to distort a little bit in the X, Y, and in the Z, and I'll hit apply. So by doing this, we're actually taking what was a pretty uniform toolpath before, and now let's do a little rendering on this one, and we should be able to notice that the toolpath here will show a little bit of a random movement, and this is going to introduce this same type of a random texture into the surface because we're actually creating a texture with our normal 2D toolpath. I didn't have to apply a texture or create a surface with a texture or use rapid texture even. My regular toolpath, once I applied it and distorted it, would introduce a texture to this part. So this way it almost looks kind of like some bark. So these are two ways you might use the toolpath distortion to introduce texture or to remove some type of tooling marks introduced during the toolpathing process.